evening, welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live from Sabata Desawe Kanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. I am Alfred Ocansey.
And my name is Christabel, success Treve.
This evening here on Hot Edition, Attorney General urges High Court to dismiss case filed by the suspended Chief Justice seeking to stop the committee hearing the petition seeking her removal. Stay with us. We've got details for you because the People's National Party PNP, Janet Nabele's PNP, petitions Asantehene 246 to the second over what it describes as unlawful suspension and human rights abuses against the Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo. Stay with us. We've got details for you here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. The Ministry of Health confirms 107 out of 316 suspected COVID19 cases at the University of Ghana, Legon. Sector Minister Mintah Akandoh assures of robust measures to contain the spread. We've got details for you here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Only 29 MPs present at Parliament's Ghost Town for national prayers. We've got details for you and also the outcome of the National Day of Prayer earlier today and the President's charge for service and nationhood. Stay with us. And the latest in business and sports over the next 1 hour here on Hot Edition. I'm Alfred Ocansey. Let's get into the summary of the news now.
Thank you, Alfred. And in a summary tonight, the first story has to do with the PNP, which is the People's National Party, who has petitioned the Asantehene to the second to intervene in what it describes as a politically motivated attempt by President John Dramani Mahama and the National Democratic Congress, NDC, to remove the suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo from office. According to the party, the process leading to the suspension of the Chief Justice and the impending deliberate attempt to remove her is an abuse of power and a political witch hunt. Health Minister Mintah Akandoh has confirmed a recent rise in COVID-19 cases, attributing the majority of infections to an outbreak on the University of Ghana campus. Addressing Parliament on Tuesday, July 1, the minister said 107 cases had been confirmed out of 316 suspected samples, with the Omicron variant identified as the primary driver of the surge. Also, Professor Ransford Jampo, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Shippers Authority, has dismissed as false and politically motivated recent social media allegations accusing him of unauthorized recruitment and extravagant travel expenses. In a statement titled "Responding to Baseless Allegations Against Me," Professor Jampo said he felt compelled to address what he described as a smear campaign aimed at silencing him due to his outspoken views on national governance. And finally, Sinlab Ghana has formally responded to media reports regarding a lawsuit filed against a company over allegedly inaccurate HIV test results that reportedly led to job loss and stigma for a female client. The reports, which cite a 10 million Ghana cedi legal claim, allege that the woman tested positive for HIV after a diagnosis by Sinlab, only to later discover that she was not infected. The woman is said to have lost her job and suffered reputational harm as a result. In a statement issued on Tuesday, July 1, Sinlab Ghana confirmed that a case is currently pending in court, but rejected the media narrative surrounding the suit, calling it inaccurate, misleading, and prejudicial. Well, we have all of this on 3news.com. You can log on there and have all the details to it. Alfred, over to you.
All right. Christabel, thank you. It's more news on 3news.com. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Let's get into the details of the story now. And the Attorney General is urging an Accra High Court to dismiss a case filed by the suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo. Now, documents filed in court by the Deputy Attorney General, Dr. Justice Shemsai, argues that the matters raised by the Chief Justice have been dealt with or remain pending at the Supreme Court. The Chief Justice has, in the last few weeks, urged the Supreme Court and now the High Court to halt her removal process. Now, this action by the Chief Justice is a sixth legal action filed in court since the presidency announced the receipt of petitions against the Chief Justice. My colleague Joseph Akandoh is joining me in the studio. He's a legal affairs correspondent to get details of exactly what the Deputy Attorney General filed in court today. What do we know, Joseph?
So we know that the Chief Justice filed this action after her initial push at the Supreme Court did not succeed. You recall that was the very first time the Chief Justice had herself taken a matter over to the Supreme Court. She filed an affidavit in which she made series of allegations. And when it went over to the Supreme Court took the view that those affidavits disclosed matters that fell within the proceedings that took place at the committee. And so the court struck out those affidavits. Her request for the proceedings to be put on hold was also not upheld by the court. Now, and after all of that, she now filed a process at the High Court. In fact, the very first time we heard of this process that has been filed at the High Court was disclosed by the Chief Justice herself. In that press conference that she addressed, she did indicate that she had instructed her lawyers to file a judicial review action challenging some of the matters that have taken place at the committee hearing. In effect, what she's seeking is for those proceedings to be put on hold. Key amongst the concerns has to do with the fact that she says up until now she has not received a ruling or a determination, the prima facie determination. She's yet to receive it, so she does not know which aspects of the petitions filed against her have crossed the prima facie threshold and which of the allegations have not. And so she's basically showed up at the committee, and all she's responding to are the matters that were given to her, for which she provided response to at the initial level, even before the committee was set up. So she doesn't even know whether her copies that she has is the same thing that the Chief Justice, the committee also has in its possession. And those are all matters that she has put in the document that she has taken over to the High Court. Now, the Deputy Attorney General has responded on behalf of the Republican.
Right.
Makes the point strongly that those matters that are being raised by the Chief Justice are matters that have been dealt with by the Supreme Court or they remain pending at the Supreme Court. In fact, they list the 5 other cases that have been filed at the Supreme Court so far. I'm going to run you through the case titles so far. So the first one is the case that was filed by the Chief Justice herself, not the first in time, but in terms of the list as put out in the court documents by the Attorney General, Her Ladyship Justice Gertrude Torkornoo versus the Attorney General and 5 others. The suit number is provided there. Then Center for Citizenship, Constitutional Electoral Systems, LBG versus Attorney General and 2 others. Then there is Vincent Ekoasefua versus Attorney General, Ebenezer Osei Owusu versus Attorney General, and Theodore Kofi Atakorte versus Attorney General. So those are the 5 cases that the AG makes reference to make the point that these are cases in which the same matters have been urged on the court. And the court has either dealt with it or the matter remains pending at the Supreme Court. And so you cannot come back to the High Court or come down to the High Court, to the lower court, and ask the High Court to pronounce on those same matters, especially when they've either been dealt with or they remain pending. And so they are basically asking the High Court to strike out the judicial review action that has been filed by the Chief Justice.
And essentially, what then this? How is it going to impact on the proceedings, especially at the Supreme Court? Because you indicate that the Deputy Attorney General, in filing today, indicates that there are some of the issues that are pending at the Supreme Court already. Does this development have any consequence whatsoever on the process at the Supreme Court as filed already?
In fact, what we do not know is whether the request that was made to the High Court by the Chief Justice, whether it includes an application for injunction or not. We also know that the Supreme Court, in that recent decision, dealt with the issues of whether an application ought to stop a constitutional body from performing its function. We know that in one of the concurring opinion, Justice Emmanuel Yonikulendi makes the point quite strongly that as far as he's concerned, he thinks that the distinction needs to be made when it comes to constitutional functions. Such an application should not stop the committee from hearing it. What we can say for a fact is that this particular application has been filed by the Attorney General. It's slated for hearing on Tuesday, the 15th of July, 2025. The request to the High Court to strike out the application that has been filed by the Chief Justice. So we'll have to look up onto that day to know what will transpire in court in terms of the concerns that may be raised by the Attorney General or lawyers for the Chief Justice.
Stay with me, Joseph. Let's bring in Lawrence Wampong, who is a private legal practitioner as well. Counsel, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Mr. Ocansey.
Now,
thanks for the pleasure.
Perfect. Now, you heard my colleague and also a senior legal affairs correspondent, Joseph Akandoh, lay the basis for the Chief Justice's now this application at the High Court. The Deputy Attorney General is making the point that the matters raised by the CJ, the suspended Chief Justice, have already been dealt with or remain pending at the Supreme Court. I mean, does this position have any merit as against what the CJ is asking for right now?
Yes, Mr. Ocansey. Thank you for the opportunity once again. And let me say good evening to your cherished listeners. Yes, I've looked at the affidavit in support of the application that has been filed by the Deputy AG. And he makes the case that the matters pending before the Supreme Court has a bearing on the application for judicial review by her ladyship, the Chief Justice. Yes, because the matter is pending, I wouldn't want to go into the merit, but let me just say that the matter before the High Court is for judicial review. And when we talk about judicial review, simply put, it means that when you look at our Constitution, Article 141, the High Court has what we call supervisory jurisdiction over all lower courts and lower adjudicating bodies. So the committee for this matter involving her ladyship is exercising a judicial function, quasi-judicial. Therefore, the High Court has that supervisory jurisdiction over that committee. And I have not seen the application which has been filed by the suspended Chief Justice. However, my understanding is that she is before the High Court because it is the proper forum when you want to go for any relief in the nature of judicial review. That is for sexual right. If you want to quash the process or the proceedings before the committee. We all heard her speak to the nation and she complained about certain acts, such as, a breach of her natural justice, fair hearing and all that, human rights matters. So it is a proper forum. As to whether the issues in her affidavit in support for a relief in judicial review has a bearing with the matters before the Supreme Court, it's for the High Court to determine. Though, let me be quick to state that we all know, and this is known by everybody who has been following these matters, that some of the things that she complained about in the Supreme Court, in her own case, the one that she was the applicant, she made mention of some of these issues. It is also a fact that some of the things that she said in her supplementary affidavit were struck out by the Supreme Court. So those are not matters which are still pending before the Supreme Court, because that matter has been dealt with. There's a ruling on it. So that is what I can say.
She's always contended, and this was even at the press conference last week, that she doesn't have a copy of the prima facie against her, and she doesn't even know whether the copies of the petitions that she has is the same that the committee that she has appeared before them really has, and being employed in the process of the hearing against her. Now, is it a legitimate suspicion to have that the details of the petition she has will be different from what the committee is having? Does it have any basis whatsoever?
Yes, Mr. Ocansey, sometimes it's difficult to answer some of these questions because, the committee has no spokesperson to, respond to this matter. However, what we all do know is that the Chief Justice herself admits that she wrote a letter to His Excellency the President requesting for copies of the petitions against her. So I find it difficult to understand if she's complaining that she doesn't have those petitions. It's quite difficult for me to understand that. Further, during her press conference, she told the whole nation the content of the petition. So she has always had the petitions. So for me, respectfully, I do not believe that the petition is the issue. All three petitions, she told us the content, which suggests that she has in her custody copies of the petition. So it is difficult for me to see that as an issue. I understand her complaining that when she appeared before the committee, they have not given her copies. But we don't know she already has copies. So that for me is a bit difficult for me to comprehend.
But how do you see things playing out? I mean, the Deputy Attorney General filed on behalf of the state asking that the High Court strikes out this particular case. Is it one that you see playing out this way, or as it were, the court will now have to determine whether the details or the reliefs that she's seeking in this supplementary affidavit has any impact on what she's seeking at the Supreme Court, essentially?
Okay, so this is how I see the High Court going about it. You know, she has brought an application in the nature of judicial review, and that application will be supported by an affidavit. In the affidavit, she would depose to the things that, in her view, okay, she sees as breaches, whether of natural justice or whatever. Then the court is going to have the opportunity to also listen to the Attorney General. Don't forget, what the AG has filed now is not in response to her application. It is another application to set aside, you get it, to strike out her application for judicial review. So the Attorney General will have an affidavit in opposition to counter the argument that has been canvassed by her ladyship. And the court will be called upon to weigh the two, to look at her depositions and marry that with that of the AG. Where there are merits in it, that will form the basis of granting the application or refusing it. I hope you get it.
I get the point. I think it's pretty, yes.
This is a separate motion which has been filed by the AG, okay? And he's also saying that he wants to strike out what has already been filed by the CJ based on certain reasons which he has deposed to them in the affidavit. So the court is going to look at it. So the two applications will come on that day. And by practice, because this current one, that the motion we are discussing, the motion on notice for an order to strike out the application for judicial review was recently filed. That will be taken before the application for judicial review.
It's going to be a day to watch. I mean, this case is expected to be heard on the 15th. Of this month, so I'm sure how the coming days will look like. We'll certainly connect with you again, Counsel, and I do appreciate your thoughts and analysis on this particular issue. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
Perfect. That's private legal practitioner Lawrence Boampong Rekon joining us with his thoughts on the Chief Justice, the suspended Chief Justice. Now, what we're learning is that the Attorney General is urging an Accra High Court to dismiss a case filed by Her Ladyship Gertrude Torkornoo. Documents filed in court by the Deputy Attorney General, Dr. Justice Shamsai, argues that the matters raised by the Chief Justice have been dealt with or remain pending at the Supreme Court. Now, this also comes on the back of what a political party is asking of Otumfuo Osei to the second. What do we know?
Well, they are petitioning the Asantehene, and these people are the People's National Party, over what it describes as unlawful suspension and human rights abuses against the Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo. And we'll be getting across to our correspondent to get more details on this very soon. Alfred?
Indeed. But then again, before we connect, this is what Janet Nabila, who is the leader of this group, this political party, has been talking about with regards to this petition to Otumfuo Osei to the second.
Political parties are supposed to run a country. And to run a country, whatever is happening to the Chief Justice is not part of running the country. We have seen that as an abuse, not only on the Chief Justice, but the women of Ghana. We see what the NDC, John Mahama administration, whatever they are doing to the woman as an abuse of power. And we think that since all protocols are no longer working, our justice system has become an annex of political parties, we decided that we will come to Mintah Palace because we know that our tradition has already shown us. They were there before this democracy we inherited came along. So if our democracy is not working, we will go back to our roots and ask the chiefs, who are the custodians of the land, to tell the Mahama government, who is just renting part of the land to operate, to call him to order. So today we are here we've presented our petition. We've cried about whatever violations are emitting out to the Chief Justice. We've outlined them in the petition, and we have given it to Otumfuo's secretary, custodians of the land, to tell the Mahama government, who is just renting part of the land to operate, to call him to order. So today we are here we've presented our petition. We've cried about whatever violations are emitting out to the Chief Justice. We've outlined them in the petition, and we have given it to Otumfuo's secretary.
That's Janet Nabila there.
Let's do some more stories. And the Ministry of Health has confirmed 107 active COVID-19 cases out of 316 suspected cases at the University of Ghana, Legon. The reported outbreak of the viral disease within the university community has caused significant panic among the general populace. However, briefing Parliament this afternoon, the Health Minister disclosed that the outbreak is confirmed to the university campus. The infections, he added, is driven by the Omicron subvariant, which is mild. Let's take a listen to the minister.
Mr. Speaker, while COVID-19 is no longer regarded as a global health emergency, it has not disappeared. Like many other viruses, we anticipate it to flare up occasionally, especially during certain seasons. In recent weeks, our National Disease Surveillance System detected an increase in cases at the University of Ghana. These cases have been traced to a familiar variant, the Omicron subvariant, which we have managed before. It spreads easily, but fortunately, it usually causes mild illness. Mr. Speaker, the recent COVID-19 cases are localized at the University of Ghana community only. I'm proud to inform this House that the cases were detected through Ghana's influenza surveillance system and confirmed by the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research. This national network of sentinel sites operates across all 16 regions. While many countries have scaled down or even stopped routine COVID-19 testing, Ghana has continued to integrate COVID-19 monitoring into its broader surveillance of respiratory viruses. This foresight and commitment to preparedness allowed us to detect the current outbreak easily and respond swiftly. It is a clear demonstration of Ghana's leadership in maintaining vigilance even at the end of the global emergency phase. Mr. Speaker, as at now, 316 suspected cases, 107 of those cases have been confirmed as COVID-19. Fortunately, Mr. Speaker, there are no hospitalizations and, more importantly, no deaths. Mr. Speaker, so far, the outbreak is limited to the university community. It has not spread widely to other parts of Accra or the rest of the country. As I mentioned earlier, all confirmed cases are recovering well. Mr. Speaker, after sending a team to investigate, we found a few key issues that fueled the spread. The biggest factor was the recent hall celebration held in the university. These events brought large crowds together with little use of face masks or distancing.
Health Minister Mintah Akandoh. He indicated heightened surveillance, adding that necessary measures have been activated to procure vaccines.
Mr. Speaker, what next? we are not stopping there. Additional steps underway include supporting Legon Hospital and Student Clinic with more resources, preparing the Ghana Infectious Disease Center to handle severe cases if any occur, holding face-to-face sessions with student bodies and faculty, providing more PPEs and training for frontline health workers, enhancing our data tracking in all health facilities, including mapping where cases are coming from, and continuing to test and monitor daily. Mr. Speaker, I want to assure Ghanaians that this is not a new virus, and we are not back to 2020. This Omicron variant has been with us before. It spread fast, yes, but it is mostly mild, and we know how to manage it. We have beaten back bigger waves before, and we can do it again. With calm, cooperation, and good public health practices. Mr. Speaker, I wish to clarify that COVID-19 vaccination is no longer part of the country's routine immunization program. Indeed, this is the case in most countries. That said, vaccinations remain one of the important tools that can be used to control the spread of COVID-19 infections, and more importantly, prevent severe disease and death.
Now, let's take you over the numbers once more. According to the Health Ministry, there are 107 confirmed cases out of the 316 suspected infections, with no hospitalizations or deaths reported. And the variant identified is an Omicron subvariant known for high transmissibility but lower severity in vaccinated populations, and is primarily in the university campus with zero spills over the general population. Now, in a related development, the management of the University of Ghana, Legon, has affirmed their commitment to collaborate with health authorities to contain the spread of the COVID-19 within the university community. The assurance was made when the sector minister, Mintah Akandoh, visited the university to get first-hand information. Here's a report by Sarah Appincroft.
The Minister for Health, Mintah Akandoh, was accompanied by officials from the Ghana Health Service as well as the Ministry of Health. He was taken to the university's Health Service Department after a brief meeting with management. The COVID-19 protocols were in strict force. Health workers here were equally fully clad in their PPEs, while the students adhered to the wearing of nose masks. So far, 117 cases from the Omicron variant have been confirmed out of 316 suspected cases, with no deaths nor hospitalization. The health officials handed over some PPEs, including sanitizers and nose masks, to officials at the facility after interacting with them to know their needs.
There's no need to panic. The information we have is that the drastic is
Pro Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana in charge of academic and student affairs, Professor Gordon Awandari, said the cases are gradually declining within their community.
With the Dean of Students, we decided to suspend large social gatherings for the time being. And students are not happy with us, but as management, we need to do what we need to do. In fact, the background of this particular outbreak seems to be one of those artist nights where we think there was some super spreading that took place, and afterwards, that's when we started to see the spike in cases. Thankfully, I think with the steps that we've taken and with the support of the Ghana Health Service, the data that we've seen shows that it seems that the outbreak is slowing down. The rate of positivity is reducing.
The minister assured them of government's commitment to support their efforts at containing the spread.
It's good to hear that the spike has been well contained, and just like you have also mentioned, we all have to bear in mind that COVID is still with us. It's not gone completely, and I can also assure you that neither is our resolve to tackle the COVID is also gone. And so we'll do as much as possible. And so what I will want to plead with you is probably to improve upon the collaboration.
The minister also visited the University of Ghana Medical Center, where he was informed that the facility is yet to confirm any COVID-19 case, despite some suspected cases.
Oh, so that's a report by Sarah Penko, but we spoke to some students on the campus of the University of Ghana to find out whether they are aware of this outbreak on campus and whether they are adhering to the safety protocols, which is really the most important. Because the fundamental issue, and which we sought to find out from a virologist, is that the University of Ghana is an open community. Now, the students sit in buses called trotros from campus home. So if they have the virus, obviously they would have exposed people without even knowing.
Exactly.
There are people who also go to the university for one reason or the other. And that particular Hall Week celebration that the minister cites as the event that led to the spike of the cases was attended by people outside of the university as well. So then there are many who are raising fundamental questions as to the minister's conclusion that it is just limited to the university alone. But this is what the students had to say.
I heard it from TikTok, but I've not been following it, but I know of it.
Yeah, I also haven't been actively following, but then I've heard it's coming back. Yeah.
So I would like to know then, have you been vaccinated?
Yes, I have.
No, I haven't.
So how prepared do you think you are for an outbreak, personally?
I'm not ready for an outbreak.
I'm not prepared at all. It shouldn't happen.
Okay, so if there was to be an outbreak and the university were to move back to what they did, very strict protocols, online classes, how do you think you'd be adapting to that? How well do you think you'd fare?
I'll be so pissed.
It's going to be very difficult. I mean,
it shouldn't come back again. That period was stressful.
And the online classes and all of that,
it's not effective.
Okay, currently no, it's past, so I just dump it in the past. Which means you are not aware of any resurgence or any noted resurgence that the university has communicated?
No.
So have you been vaccinated?
Yes, when it came at first I was, but I don't think I will again because I heard it's diabolic.
So why were you vaccinated in the first place?
I didn't know anything about it, and then it was like, if you don't get vaccinated, you cannot travel. You don't get vaccinated, you need green card or you look or something, blah blah, a whole lot of people. So you just cleared all those kind of things when traveling or doing anything. I just had to get the vaccination. I think in my school it was compulsory, so they forced us to get the vaccination. So that was how I got with the first dose. But I said, well, I will not do it.
So in the event of an outbreak, how prepared do you think you are?
First of all, I didn't expect an outbreak again because Pastor Christo has COVID-19 is gone and it's not coming back. So,
well, so is these are the interactions that we had with some of the students at the University of Ghana, Legon, and fortunately, I also had a conversation with Professor Joseph Kofi Humphrey Bonny, who is the head of department, the virology department at the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research at the University of Ghana, Legon. Professor Joseph Kofi Bonny gave us some detail of when Noguchi recorded their first case of COVID-19, which he indicated was in April. And the Hall Week celebration of Pent Hall was in May. So they actually recorded the first case of COVID on the University of Ghana campus before that Hall Week celebration.
Yes.
But then there was a spike in the cases during and after that Hall Week celebration, and that's what we got to find out.
For the opportunity. I would like to say, unfortunately or fortunately for us in the Department of Virology, University of Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research, we are mainly the outfit that are testing for these clinical specimens that are suspected for these respiratory infections, and we are confirming it. So we know about it already. So it did not come as a surprise or a shock. Maybe we were just waiting for the people in the university environs to be giving that caution for us to go back to the protocols that we used to use, mainly when we were at the height of the pandemic, that is the COVID-19 pandemic. So it was not a surprise to me because we have been seeing this increasing numbers from April. I mean, it was not overwhelming from then. We were just having isolated cases and going up a little. So recently, when one of the halls had, I think, a whole week, and we had a number of suspected cases coming in, quite a number. And after the testing, we realized that almost half of the number that came in as suspected were confirmed to be COVID-19 samples. In other words, SARS-CoV-2 positive.
I see. So you started monitoring these cases as far back as April at Noguchi. So it's just fair to say that, well, the COVID-19 never really left us. The virus was probably, in your view, from where you sit, suppressed, at least for over the last 2 years. Is it not?
I don't think it was announced anywhere that COVID left us. It's a respiratory infection and we can get it anytime. Just that the numbers decreased drastically. But, Noguchi has been doing this sentinel surveillance activities for respiratory infections. So we have areas that we pick people who show these symptoms and we test whether they are influenza or anything other than influenza, which is respiratory. And like I said, over some few months now, we have been seeing isolated cases of SARS-CoV-2 coming in. Then all of a sudden we had this spike. So, like I was saying, it's not new. COVID never left us. Numbers went down drastically, but now they are picking up. Fortunately for us, when we do the testing, we go beyond the normal qualitative testing to know whether it is positive or negative, to do the sequencing, to know what kind of strain is also circulated. And we know that we have Omicron, and Omicron, we have so many subvariants. These Omicron, they are highly transmissible, but less severe.
That's Professor Joseph Kofi Boni is head of virology at the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research. So Omicron, we're getting to know now, which is the variant that has been confirmed at the University of Ghana, is highly transmissible, but less fatal.
Yeah.
But we all have to adhere to the safety protocols as we're having it right now. It's some 20 minutes to top of the hour, 6 p.m. here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Let's get into some more stories this time around with the electricity tariffs.
All right. Starting today, all electricity bills have gone up for all consumers after the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, announced a 2.45% tariff increase for residential, commercial, and industrial users. The adjustment, which took effect at midnight, means households and businesses will now pay more for power, adding to the financial strain many Ghanaians are already facing due to rising living costs. The PURC says the increase is necessary to first of all, cover rising operational costs for power producers, 2, pay off the 4 188 million Ghana cedis in unpaid sector debts, and 3 to account for fuel price changes and grid maintenance. However, critics argue that the hike is unfair, especially since the Ghana cedi has gained 30% against the dollar this year, which should lower costs. Inflation has also dropped to 18.4%, down from earlier projections of 20.67%. And here's how some Ghanaians are reacting to the increment.
If we are paying and we are getting the service well, fine. You know, ECG has a lot of debt on them. So if they will increase for that money to come and to support them to clear those debts, fine, Ghanaians, we are cool with it.
The government is doing good with the increment because we are in a system where all the taxes have been removed from a lot of places that our former president did. So that's where we're going to generate funds from to help to develop the country.
I think it's a good initiative. Even though we are living in a time of uncertainty, this levy should not affect us in any way.
And yet, at the end of 2%, and to me, and say,
the energy sector levy was briefly suspended after we lamented about it. If its intended purpose is to solve the energy sector debt, we welcome it. However, the government should also focus on improving service quality. Electricity tariffs keep increasing. My usual 100 cedis prepaid couldn't last for more than 2 weeks.
Those were some Ghanaians reacting to the increment, Alfred.
No, let's stay a bit further on this. And Benjamin Isiah is Executive Director for the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy. Center is joining us right now. Sorry, good evening.
Good evening, Alfred.
Thank you for connecting with us. I mean, you had the concerns that many have raised. You could describe it as divergent views, but then again, what is clear and constant is that we would have to pay more for electricity beginning today, as was announced by the PRC. A legitimate increase from where you sit?
Thank you very much, Alfred. I think as a center, we are interested in the sustenance of debt in the power sector, and that is defraying most of the debt. We are also interested in Ghana having full energy security, and that means availability, accessibility, and affordability of power, which is one of the main contributors of our growth as a country. However, we also think that certain inefficiencies in the power sector must be addressed so that we don't continue burdening the end user with unnecessary tariff adjustments. And these are reasons. If you look at this current tariff increment, I must even say that the PRC is working illegally in terms of collecting this tariff beginning today, because the law states that tariff decision must be gazetted, and after gazetting, before we start collecting them. When PRC announced the first quarter and second quarter tariff on 11th April, they started collecting these particular tariffs, put them in bills for end users to pay on the 1st of May 2025. However, it was gazetted on the 13th of May 2025, which is an illegality. We've also just observed that PRC made an announcement on Thursday, I think around 25th or so, and collections starts today, yet it has not been gazetted yet. So, which is also an illegality that we think that PRC must address in future. Now, with respect to the main indicators, now tariff adjustments are done based on macroeconomic indicators and also market-driven indicators. The macroeconomic indicators basically are the inflation rate and also the exchange rate. We've observed that comparing this current tariff adjustment to the previous adjustment, inflation has declined by about 2%. And then the exchange rate, which is also a macroeconomic indicator, has also appreciated by about 30%, because the last time the exchange rate use was 15 Ghana cedis, 69 pesos, which is almost 15 Ghana cedis, 70 pesos. Currently, we are expected to use 10 Ghana cedis, 30 pesos to the dollar in terms of certain end-user tariffs. And that 30% appreciation of the currency should have seen the end-user benefit some decline on tariffs. However, we saw PRC increasing tariff by 2.45%. The other indicators, which are market-driven, are the energy sources or the energy mix. It is constant because compared to the previous quarters, we are still using 28 or almost 29 for hydro and then 71 for thermal. So it is constant compared to the previous. The only variation is that the cost of thermal gas has seen about 1% increase from $7.69 per British thermal unit to $7.71 per British thermal unit. That is only about 1% increment. So if you look at the macroeconomic indicators and also the market-driven indicators, end-user tariff ought to have decreased by about 10% to almost 15% for the end user to benefit. However, these are the reasons why PRC says that they want to increase the tariff. And we think that some of these reasons are major tariff decisions that they ought to have engaged end users. The first is that they're saying they are adding what they call a reserve capacity. As of now, if you look at the announcement they made, they could not tell us the cost of that particular reserve capacity that the end user is expected to pay. I think that they need to give us further clarity, and that is the lack of transparency in terms of telling us what we need to pay. So there's no clarity on how much the reserve capacity is, and also the percentage that the consumer will bear in terms of our generation. So that there's that lack of transparency there. The second component has to do with fuel cost. Now, PRC is telling us that we are expected to pay 27% of emergency fuel, but they could also illustrate in the tariff announcement how much the emergency fuel is and whether we shall continue to pay that particular 27% in perpetuity. Because we also know, based on data, that there are certain times of the years that we don't procure fuel or emergency fuel for thermal power generation or for feeding as a feeding stock for power generation. So in years that we don't procure this fuel, will we still pay it? I think that these two components are major tariff decisions that PRC ought to have engaged stakeholders, call for papers or call for position so that we all discuss it and know what the consumer
would be. And it's a very, very important issue, very legitimate concerns that you're raising there. Benjamin Isia, Executive Director for the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy. Before we go, today is the day set aside for National Thanksgiving and Prayers.
Yes, the whole nation gathered in unison. And the president is saying that he's committed to building a nation where nobody is above the law. Speaking at the National Mosque as part of the National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving, President Mahama reiterated that the fragile peace Ghana is enjoying must never be taken for granted. He therefore called on Ghanaians to reject those who profiteer from dividing the citizens.
We are all accountable to Allah and to one another. Leadership is not a privilege to be enjoyed, but it is a sacred trust to be fulfilled. And that is why, under my leadership, I remain committed to building a Ghana where no one is above the law. Institutions function with integrity, justice is not reserved for only the powerful, and public resources benefit all of us and not a few people. My brothers and sisters, for over 3 decades, Ghana has maintained a democratic path marked by peaceful transitions and robust civic participation. But democracy must be nourished not only by elections, but by ethical governance, respect for human dignity, and service to the common good. Therefore, this National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving must be more than just a ceremonial observance. It must become a cornerstone of our national conscience, a reminder that all our labors are in vain without Allah.
Meanwhile, National Chief Imam His Eminence Sheikh Osman Nuhu Sharabutu said the grace granted to Ghana is not limited to only one person.
Are we lifting others?
There is a rhythm based on which songs are composed. Then all the singers composed their songs based on that rhythm. And the one who is going to be the composer of the last song said, nothing has been left behind for him to compose. The kind of prayer which sincerely I will fervently say for my dear son, the president, have all been rendered by these imams. We are all witnesses here that in most of the gatherings that we have met here, you heard me saying special prayers for His Excellency the President.
Well, still live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're back with the business news. Bismarck Ewusa is standing by. Stay with us.
Hello, Ghana. It's a new year and Bill's Microcredit is here to support your dreams. If you're not working but want to start a business, don't let money stop you. With just your Ghana card, you can get a loan to turn your ideas into reality. Already running a business? Need more capital? Or are you a salary worker looking for extra funds? Bill's offers fast and easy loans with no collateral, no deposit, and no SUSI savings required. Wherever you are, whatever you need, Bills makes it happen. Call Bills Microcredit today. Call 0596 920 833 or 0302 200 390 and get started. Bills is licensed and regulated by the Bank of Ghana. Bills, financing your needs. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Ewusa. Coming up tonight, Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, COMAC, raises concerns over undue interference by Labour Ministry Task Force in members' operations. Ahead, we'll hear from its Chief Executive, Dr. Rivasinopon. Thanks for your company. Now to the details. The Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, COMAC, has raised concerns over what it describes as undue interference in the operations of its members by a task force from the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations. Chief Executive of COMAC, Dr. Rivasinopon, said the Chamber has received multiple complaints from member companies regarding the conduct of the task force. According to him, personnel from the group are reportedly carrying out inspections, issuing demands, and in some cases, threatening to shut down fuel stations. Dr. Opon called for clearer engagement protocols between regulatory authorities and industry players to ensure professional oversight without disrupting business operations.
The day I was called by one of my members that there's a task force from Ministry of Labour, which was news to us, it has never happened, I quickly called MPA. And MPA, with due diligence and due respect, sent a troop. By the time they got to the filling station, these so-called people, task force, have left. I've received messages from MPA that the Ministry of Employment and Labour, are calling for engagement. So we're waiting on a call from MPA, and we're ready. Like I said in the speech, a ministry cannot be a regulator. First of all, you see, a ministry cannot stand up and send task force. It's so wrong. Today, have you seen Ministry of Energy send task force to go and cut people's lights for not paying? There's a sector agency that you work with, and you know we work. My board chairman is here; he can confirm. We work hand in hand with DFI. That's the Department of Factory Inspectorate, as far as the Ministry of Labour is concerned.
And that was Chief Executive of the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, COMAC, Dr. Rivasinopon. Before we go, the board and management of the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems, GIPS, have announced the retirement of Chief Executive Officer Asantehene, effective today, Tuesday, July 1, 2025, marking the end of nearly 2 decades of transformative leadership in Ghana's financial technology space. Asantehene, who joined GIPS in 2007 as General Manager in charge of projects and business development, is widely credited with spearheading key innovations that have defined Ghana's modern payment systems architecture. Among his early achievements was the rollout of the National Biometric smart card bank and ant payment system, popularly known as EasyWage. The platform became instrumental in supporting government-to-person payments, particularly for social protection programs. And that brings us to the end of the business news on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Ausa. For more business stories, please check out our websites 3news.com. Sports is next, please stay.
Is the 3FM Baby Fair happening live on the 11th to the 13th of July at Marina Mall Airport City in Accra from 10 a.m. and it's absolutely free. From baby essentials and kids wear to toys, skincare, educational material and so much more. Shop amazing deals on a wide range of childcare products all under one roof. Don't miss our sessions with the Ghana Pediatric Society and all the amazing mums with the Mum Circle, a safe space for young mothers to share tips and connect. And there will be fun activities for the kids with our Kids Corner, games for the family, good food and great vibes all around. To be a vendor, please call 0531 100 927 or 0532 200 927. It's the 3FM Baby Fair, your one-stop event for all your child care needs.
This is 3FM.
3FM. Fair happening live on the 11th to the 13th of July at Marina Mall Airport City in Accra from 10 a.m. and it's absolutely free. From baby essentials and kids wear to toys, skincare, educational material and so much more. Shop amazing deals on a wide range of childcare products all under one roof. Don't miss our sessions with the Ghana Pediatric Society and all the amazing mums with the Mum Circle, a safe space for young mothers to share tips and connect. And there will be fun activities for the kids with our Kids Corner, games for the family, good food and great vibes all around. To be a vendor, please call 0531 100 927 or 0532 200 927. It's the 3FM Baby Fair, your one-stop event for all your child care needs.
3FM.
And it's now time for sports on Hot Edition with me, Akusia AJ. We start off from here in Accra and with Accra Hearts of Oak. And Didi Dramani joins the Phobians on a 2-year deal, replacing former coach Abubakar Ouattara, who has been moved into the role of a special advisor on the board. Dramani, who previously coached Asantehene and Ghana's Black Meteors, will face his first task as Hearts manager when the Phobians come up against Kumasi Asantehene in the President's Cup on 5th July. The veteran coach has admitted that his focus is on restoring the glory of the club.
If we come to serve, other times we leave, others will come, but the fans have nowhere to go. And so if there's anything that we are bringing to Accra House of Folk, it's something that we try to bring to Accra House of Folk and the fans. And so I believe that, you know, the good football the board is speaking about, the discipline the board is speaking about, the passion and then the anxiety of purpose that the board is speaking about. It is all about refining something that has already been instituted. Then we will try to translate this onto the pitch. And I believe that when we continue to do this consistently and we're able to sustain this over the years, we'll bring Accra House of Folk back to where the club really belongs.
That was Hearts of Oak manager Didi Dramani speaking. Let's turn our attention now from Hearts of Oak and men's football. And let's do some women's football because the Women's African Cup of Nations will kick off in Morocco on 5th July. 12 teams divided into 3 groups will vie for the ultimate crown. Ahead of the tournament, Ghana's Black Queens have moved to Saida in Morocco, where they are finalizing preparations for Group C against South Africa, Tanzania, and Mali. In the latest episode of WAFCON Daily, I throw more light on the Black Queens who will be participating in the competition for the first time since 2018. Welcome to another edition of WAFCON Daily, your go-to source of everything leading up to the 2024 Women's African Cup of Nations in Morocco. I am Akosia AJ, and today we're spotlighting Ghana's quest for continental glory. The Black Queens have been pioneers in the history of the WAFCON, from the early days of 2-legged qualifiers to the modern tournament format. Despite reaching the finals in 1998, in 2002 and 2006, they narrowly missed lifting the trophy on all 3 occasions. Ghana also boasts of 3 bronze medals from 2000, 2004, and 2016. However, the journey hasn't always been smooth. After a disappointing group stage exit as host in 2018, the Queens missed out on the last edition of the tournament. But now they are back and eager to make a statement. Drawn into Group C, Ghana will square off against South Africa, Tanzania, and Mali as they begin their campaign in Morocco. With Morocco hosting the WAFCON for the second time, this could be the tournament the Black Queens finally rise to the top. That's all for today's edition of WAFCON Daily with me, Akosia AJ. Don't miss the next episode. Finally, before we go, Manchester City were eliminated from the Club World Cup after a 7-goal thriller against Saudi side Al Hilal, ending 4-3. The citizens officially ended their 2024-2025 campaign with no trophies for the first time since 2016. This has prompted a reaction from newly appointed captain Bernardo Silva, who says the team will regroup and fight for major honors next season. That's all for the Sports on Hot edition. My name is Akosia AJ.
That's all the time here we have on Hot Edition. Thank you for staying with us. My name is Christabel. Success Treve. I've been doing this with Alfred. Ocansey. More updates at the top of the hour. Well, we have the 3FM Drive team standing by. Stay tuned.